Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. I'll ask you again, can you even tell what day it is, or does every day seem like Sunday? We got another 30 days of staying home here in Illinois. I know everybody's going to be excited about that, but some of the states are opening up. We haven't quite peaked yet in Winnebago County, but we're getting close to peaking in Winnebago County. You can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's go back and talk about managing our state and the ways in which we do that. And we said that the ability to manage your state is really the number one tool in order to decide the quality of your life. If you have the ability to manage your state in tough times, you have everything. If you don't have the ability to do that, then you have nothing. You can either be at the cause or you can be at the effect. And the way that we manage our state, we do three different things. We use our physiology, our physical body, to manage our state, and a radical change in physiology is going to make a radical change in how you feel. And we notice that in professional athletes. When they get ready for a play, we had the NFL draft last night. I can't wait to see how many people watch that. It got to be millions. So when you watch an athlete get ready for a play to happen, they use their physical body initially to put themselves in a certain state so that they're ready to go. And we can do that at any time for anything. And it doesn't have to be an intense state. It can be a relaxed state. It can be a loving state. It can be a focused state. Whatever it is, you can do it, but you start with your physiology. Second part of the triad, there's a triad that forms all of this, is focus/belief. Whatever you're focusing on is what you get, and your beliefs about that are going to decide how you feel. We're going to talk about more about that another time. Today we're going to go back and talk about language. That's the third part of this triad, is language. How do we define things? We use words, and the average human uses thousands and thousands of words on a given day and a given week. The problem is we almost always use the same words. We repeat ourselves again and again and again and again. So what I want you to do this weekend is start to notice the language that you use and the phrases that you use, because we all have certain catchphrases. For mine, it's in any case. That's my transitional phrase. In any case. But we all have these phrases that we use habitually, and words matter. I mean, I know there's a lot of people now on the national level that'll say, oh, well, words don't matter. What somebody says really doesn't matter. It's what they mean. No, words matter. Words mean everything, because the way that we use language will define a given situation for us. So think about it for a second. If you say that I'm furious, that creates a whole different feeling than if you say I'm peeved, or I'm kind of upset. If you say that what's going on is outrageous, that has a whole different language than if you say it's confusing. Watch commercials for different TV stations. So if you're watching one TV station, watch the commercials for the other TV stations and watch the language that they have to use in order to try to get your attention. So like the Weather Channel. I mean, the Weather Channel now talks about devastating, horrifying, tragic, ridiculous earthquakes and tornadoes. They're doing all of this stuff in order to shock you, in order to get your attention. And the more exaggerated the language, the more emotion is attached to that. So watch your language. When something happens, do you have habitual, if you have somebody in your life that frustrates you, do you have a boss? Do you have a coworker that you're currently having a difficult time with, or maybe a relative, maybe a parent, or a child, or a brother or a sister that you're currently having difficulty with? Watch the language that you use with them. Do you have habitual words that actually raise your blood pressure more than needs to be? And ask yourself the question, what's my outcome? Remember, we always start out with asking ourselves that question. What is my outcome? What's my outcome in this situation? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish? And then take a look at that language and see if that language brings you closer to your outcome or takes you further away. Many times we have a series of words that we use in a given situation that just make it worse and worse and worse. And the words have tremendous amounts of emotional response to them. We say things, like we're furious and we're frustrated and this is catastrophic and this is tragic and this is horrifying and unbearable and unbelievable. And we use all of these words. Well, these words create feelings and they create emotions. And the more that you have those emotions, then the more, you put stress into your body breaks down, your immune system breaks down. Plus, it's like that merry-go-round. The more we do it, the more it continues to work upon itself and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this problem suddenly becomes massive, so massive that we cannot deal with it. Try playing around with language today. Instead of saying that something is outrageous, say that it's confusing. Say that it's interesting. Say that it's by the way, the business community is great at this. Remember, MicroSwitch became famous for its phrase suboptimal. And again, they make fun of that a little bit. Jim Cramer makes fun of that phrase on CNBC all the time. It's suboptimal. The plane crashed. Well, that's suboptimal. All right. But in a sense, that they're also right to use that language, because if you don't have that massive emotional response, it creates space for you to actually think about, what do I want to do in order to solve this problem? And that was the idea with the business community. If we sit there and say, this is devastating and horrifying, people are so overwhelmed by those words that there's no space to figure out a solution. Remember, you should spend 10% of your time looking at the problem and 90% focusing on the solution. And that's what successful people do. And when the business community does things like, well, that's suboptimal, what they're doing is saying, okay, we acknowledge that this result is not what we want. But rather than just focusing on the problem, what can we do in order to fix it? And that language allows that space to do that. Oh, by the way, somebody said I didn't have a ring on my finger. I do have a ring on my finger. So do the same thing in your life. Instead of sitting there and saying all of these unbelievably emotionally devastating words, use words that give you space so that you can focus on your outcome. Start with the end in mind. What is my result here? What's the outcome that I want? And then figure out how to get to that instead of being overwhelmed with these words. So just pay attention over this weekend to the words that you use. Pay attention to the words that your spouses use. Pay attention to the words your kids use. And you can use this stuff on everybody you can change one word and completely change how everybody feels about a given situation just by changing a word. If you can change from frustrating to confusing, from devastating to not the result we want, what is it that we can do? And I'll leave you with two phrases that we incant to ourselves, two things that I taught my daughter very early on in life that I think are very helpful. Number one, if you're frustrated, you're going to have a breakthrough. That is always true. And number two, if you're confused, you're going to learn something. Sorry, I lost my connection for a second. If you're frustrated, you're going to have a breakthrough. If you're confused, you're going to learn something. So the next time you're frustrated, immediately say to yourself, that means I'm going to have a breakthrough. That means I'm going to figure something out. That'll take your focus away from being frustrated, and you'll start looking at, where's my breakthrough going to be? And if you're confused, then say, great. Start to train your mind. That means I'm going to learn something. If I'm confused, I'm going to learn something, and learning something is great. Once you start creating these connections, then because your brain likes to be happy, guys. Once you start creating these connections, then your brain's going to go there. So watch your language all weekend. Use it to change how you feel about things. Make good things bigger and make bad things smaller. And then start incanting to yourself and creating these beliefs. If you're frustrated, you're going to have a breakthrough. And if you're confused, you're going to learn something. We're going to get through this, everybody. You can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Have a great day. See you tomorrow morning.